Okay, this is going to be a video on how to use the clipping masks that I created for you and hopefully increase your workflow. I'm going to show you how to use these one-on-one, and then I'm going to show you how to use multiple artboards. So what you want to do is open the file in Illustrator. Um, I'm in the tracing mode only because it's so simple and there's not a lot to it. Uh, you can see that I've got the layers open, and one thing you might want to notice is that I've locked the text layers, and I've done that so you don't accidentally bring in any text. Um, this layer, layer 1, is just the clipping masks, okay? So you're going to bring these clipping masks into your file. You don't have to set them up. Um, okay, so uh, let's create a new file. So let's say we're going to do one of the radial symmetries. So we're going to go File, New, and I'm going to make them 600 by 600. Um, we may lose a little bit of room to work with, but what's nice about this, it's already a square format, and then it makes it super easy to export for our project into our journal. So um, I'm going to do just, and then the profile, let's just do as print, and then we're going to have to go back and reset the width here. We're going to go 600, 600. Units, let's do pixels, and then we should be good. So, okay. All right. So let's say we were going to do the 3-axis radial. We can bring in our file, which we've already created the motif. So we're going to go File, Place, and there's my motif. Okay. And it doesn't need to be exactly in center, but close is great. Okay. Now we're going to bring that clipping mask in, and it's very simple. We're going to go back to the clipping mask file, and we're just going to select one of the clipping masks, and then just hit Command C, which copies it. Now it's in your clipboard, so go to uh, your new file, and then go, we want it to go on top, so hit Command F. And what that does is it places the clipping file on top. See that? Okay. Now, we should probably go through the process of getting these to be, this clipping mask is probably a little bit on the large side. So hit the Shift key and scale it down a little bit. And again, you can kind of mess around with this. We talked about trying not to have a lot of negative space in the center here. And I just want to make sure that they're aligned to center. And if you have smart guides checked, that should work. You could also go and view show the grid, and that might help. But basically, as you move this around, you should see them line. I don't know if you can see that on there, but the green comes alive and it lines up. Okay, and then I would just select both and go Object, Clipping Mask, Make. All right, and then you remember how we created the rotation. So because I need this to be in the entire square, I'm going to just move this up pretty far, and then I can do this really quickly. Go to the rotate tool, select the anchor point as the rotation point, grab the anchor to the right, pull this down. I forgot to do this. I need to make a copy. So I'm going to go Command C and then Command F. So now there's 2 copies there. Now I can go back, pull this down until I see it clink to 60, and then hit Command C, Command F, and then Command D, and that copies the rotation. Command C, Command F, Command D, Command C, Command F, Command D, Command C, Command F, Command D. Okay, so you understand the instructions for that. All right, you need to do three studies. You need to do a 3-axis, a 4-axis, and a 5-axis. So we're going to do this in such a way that it's going to improve the workflow here. So we can save this. We can go File. Let's just save it as an Illustrator file for right now. And I'll call it study 1. Okay. So we're going to create a new file. So we're going to go File, New. This time we're going to do 600 by 600, but we're going to create 4 artboards. And you might say, why 4 and not 3? When you set up the artboards, it allows you to determine how many columns. You could say, well, just one, and then they'd be 1, 2, 3, one right under each other. If you do 2, they're side by side. So if you can imagine this, if you did 3, you'd have 2 by side, and then 1 underneath. Might as well do 4. It takes up exactly the same amount of space. Spacing means how far are the artboards apart from one another. There may be situations where you want the artboards right next to each other, so your spacing would be 0. I'm going to give myself a little bit of room, and I'm going to say 50 pixels apart. Okay, so it should be 600 by 600. It should be in the print mode. We're going to have 4 artboards, and then we're going to hit OK. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring in a clipping mask for each one of these artboards. So let's go back to the clipping mask. You have one selected. Hit the Shift key. Got to make sure we're on the selection tool. Hit the Shift key. That's going to select another one. Hit the Shift key, and that's going to select another. Now remember, I have the text layer locked, so it's not going to bring any of these text in. So hit Command C, which is copy, and then go to your new artboard, and we're going to hit, we can just hit Command V, which is paste. They come in all together, but they're not grouped. So if you click to the outside here, now we can bring these, and you'll see the smart guides will align them to the center. So let's just do that. So we're going to bring each one. You don't have to be exactly on center. There we go. All right. This guy needs to be moved over a little bit. There we go. Okay, now let's bring in the motif. So we're going to go File, Place, pick up that motif, and go Place. Okay, now look at this. It's going to be on top of the clipping mask, and it needs to be under in order for the clipping mask to work. So we're going to go Object, Arrange, and we're going to go Send to Back. And there you can see. Okay, so now we're going to copy and paste this into each one. So we're going to go Command C, but what we're going to do is we're going to hit Command B as in boy, or as in back. And when we do that, it will put it behind the clipping mask. So hit Command B. Command C, Command B. Oh, it's behind, directly behind. There it is. Now I think I might have made, yeah, I made 2 copies. So you can tell they're behind because you can see the clipping mask on top. So now look at that. We've got all of them. Now again, you see that they're different proportions, and we played around a little bit this morning with this. So I'm not going to do all of them, but I can kind of play around with them, and then I'm going to pause a minute, and I'm going to complete all these, and then I'm going to be back. So hang on. Okay, through the magic of digital recording, we're back, and you can see that now I have the 3-axis, the 4-axis, and the 5-axis. So what's interesting is to see how that same motif looks under different axes. It would be much more interesting to do different motifs. I mean, you can see how this thing can get really many different iterations. One thing you might want to do is right now it's on info, click on navigator. What's cool about this is the red area shows kind of the work area. So this is kind of an easy way when you've got multiple boards to move around, especially if you start enlarging it. You want to see, okay, I want to look at this guy here, right? So, bring it into there, all right? Hit Command minus. Okay, so we want to come back. Okay, so now you're probably wondering, okay, now what do I do with these? So we're going to export them, but we're going to export them as individual uh, Illustrator files. So what we're going to do is we're going to go File, and we're going to go Save As. Okay, and what we're going to do is it's going to call each one 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to call this to begin with. I'm just going to call it Radial Study, and then go Save. And if you look at this, it's one of these is save each artboard to a separate file. So we're going to say yes. Okay. Now we could save all of them, but we can specify a range. Well, we didn't do anything with that fourth artboard. Maybe if we had, we'd say all, but let's do a range, and we'll go range, and we'll go 1 through 3. Okay. So we're going to go okay. So what's going to happen now, it's saving them all. Now we can go back to the desktop, and there they are. They're right there. Study 1, Study 2, and Study 3. This one I think I'd already saved. So now to get them, what we need to do is we need to open them up singularly and then export them as a JPEG to put into your file, which is fine because we could probably want to rename these. So we'll go File, and we'll go Export. We're going to export it as a JPEG. And let's rename this. So we can call this 3-axis. And then export. CMYK is fine. The resolution is fine. Hit OK. All right. Now let's open Radial Study 2. And we're going to go File, Export, and we're going to call this one 4-axis. And then go, we'll want to save it as a JPEG. And we would do that with the last one. So that's kind of a quick way of working. Just looking at this and analyzing this, I really don't want all that negative space in there. So I could look at ways of re-rendering the clipping mask, or maybe cropping something and putting something in here. We can talk all about that the next time we meet. Okay, that's it. You now have all your studies done.